Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of June 5th, 2019 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Mayor and Council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Would everyone please stand for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Roll call.
Councilman Bruno. Councilman Casio.
Here.
Councilman Cumming.
Here.
Councilman Ullman. Council President DeSena.
Here. Let the record reflect also in attendance Mayor Peter Calamari, Township Administrator Robert Tobo, Township Attorney Kenneth Pollard, CFO Judy Curran, and Township Clerk Susan Wachowski. Reading of the total list of bills as of May 31st, 2019.
The following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted, representing May 1st, 2019 through May 31st, 2019. Total 2018 reserve, $65,573.08. Total 2019 current, $3,537,659.57. Total capital fund, $47,060, no cents. Total animal control, $48.60. Total grant fund, $335 even. Total trust fund, $1,544.44. Total escrow trust, $58,583.30.
Thank you. Approval of minutes, public meeting minutes, January 21st, 2019. Conference meeting minutes, January 21st, 2019. Budget meeting minutes, March 25th, 2019. Budget meeting minutes, March 26th, 2019. Budget meeting minutes, April 4th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Report of the mayor, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go out to the deceased and living victims and their families who were affected by the Virginia Beach shooting. Now on to town items. The new ambulance and fire building. The architect will have another presentation for the governing body and the public at the next council meeting. The town-owned Red House adjacent to the firehouse on Pascack Road is gone. The company that did the demolition gave us a letter stating that there was no asbestos or lead paint found in the structure. It was a pleasure to attend the annual fire department inspection and dinner. Our firefighters dedicate a lot of time and effort keeping the equipment in perfect condition to handle any situation that comes their way. I'm happy that we have appropriated money in this year's capital budget so we can replace one of their many aging pieces of equipment, engine truck 44. We look forward to quickly passing the capital ordinance so we can get started on this and the other capital projects for the year. Please remember that tomorrow is the 75th anniversary of D-Day, the largest seaborne invasion in history, when 155,000 American, British, and Canadian troops successfully stormed Normandy's beaches and were able to push inland. In keeping with that same military theme, we had perfect weather for our Memorial Day parade and ceremony. It's a privilege to be involved honoring the many people who made the ultimate sacrifice to allow us to enjoy the freedoms that this country offers. I want to thank everyone involved in putting the parade and ceremony together. I especially want to thank the veterans in town who continue to come out, even as it may be becoming more difficult for them to do so. It is an important day reserved for honoring and reflecting on the sacrifices made by many men and women. It would be great if more families could attend the parade and ceremony, giving the children a better understanding of the true reason for the day off. I thank the Girl Scouts of Troop 97465 and 96679 may now have a better understanding of the day after they planted flowers and set up flags all along the parade route. Thanks, girls. Great job. Unfortunately, due to a previous commitment, I was unable to attend the annual Girl Scout bridging ceremony this year. However, I appreciate being invited and send them my congratulations. The Green Team has been busy planting this year's garden and are hoping for another good crop. The team wishes to thank the Bethany Community Center and Stone Mill Gardens for their support of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cumming, report of council.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. In the interest of brevity, let me just say that D-Day is definitely on all of our minds since it's the 75th anniversary, and I will be participating in the community garden. I'm going to set up a drip irrigation system that will conserve water a lot and water plants directly, since that's something I have the material and the ability. We are now finishing the shakedown cruise of our air conditioning, and this unit is circulating air in this room and will continually, and then cool it as needed. So it should work perfectly well for us. And we're saving watts and watts and watts of electricity. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cumming. Mr. Bruno?
I do not have a report at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cassio?
I have no report for tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you. Couple quick things. It was an honor to attend the Memorial Day celebration. Thank you to everyone involved, including all the veterans that were able to attend. Like the mayor said, the fire department inspection, very proud to have been invited to that. It was an honor. What our men have done with trucks that are very old and they look beautiful. So I was honored to attend that. The intersection is moving along. The plans are progressing. We should have some utility locations going on this October, November, and hopefully intersection construction starting next year. That's all I really have. It was also nice to see the Red House finally gone. It was an eyesore that needed to be taken down. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I had. Do I have a motion to open the meeting up to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Cassio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. If anybody would like to address the council at this time, please come up to the podium, state your name and address. Mrs. Bolton?
Mary Ellen Bolton, 71 Andrea Lane in the Township of Washington. I want to preface my comments by saying anything in comparison to D-Day pales. However, I take this opportunity to address you again for a second time. Mr. Mayor, Council President, Councilman, I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Just to recap a few comments from the past, I appeared before you on May 6th to address the Forever Young program in Westwood, which historically has been granted courtesy residency status to township members. You provided a listening ear and assured us that you would investigate the topic, and we thank you for that. We also left informational literature to demonstrate the 7 different physical exercise classes per week, in addition to senior citizen activities. On Tuesday, May 14th, I spoke with Mr. DeSena, who stated that no decision had been made at that time, but he encouraged me to attend a program here run by the township. On May 21st, I attended the program in this particular building, and respectfully, Mr. DeSena, it is not mat yoga, it is chair yoga.
Okay.
I have noted that in an email I
Yes, you
sent to
did.
all of you. And this type of yoga meets the needs of certain individuals and not the needs of others.
Mrs. Bolton, if I could just, I don't want to cut you off.
Okay.
We have, the mayor has investigated it, and so has Mr. Tovo with Westwood. The issue is that they are at max capacity per students per class. So that's issue number 1. Correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, correct.
So what I'd like to do is, if we could possibly have you sit down with the rec director, and I understand I understand your comments wholeheartedly about mat yoga versus chair yoga, and that you're you're absolutely more agile to not have to do chair yoga and you want to do mat yoga, we have to figure out a way to bring mat yoga here in Township. Because unfortunately, Westwood, they don't have the ability to add another class, so we need to bring it here. And the council, I believe, is all for bringing it here. We will come up with a way to get it here, but we need your input of what classes you'd like to be brought to the township to be added to supplement the other classes that are run here. So that's what we need to do, because the problem with Westwood is it's not a monetary issue, it's an issue of size, right, Mr. Mayor?
Correct.
With all due respect, sir, and as recently as yesterday, there's only one Tuesday class and one Thursday class that's at capacity, and that is not yoga. That's cardio. There is also a strength training class, a mat yoga class, a melt class, and a yoga in the park on Mondays and on Wednesday evenings. None of those classes are full. There's only
We're
one
just going by
cardio
what,
class.
that's what we were told, correct, Mr. Mayor?
Correct, yes.
For some, I don't know what the communication issue is, but the last time I was here, there was a communication issue as well.
Well, we didn't have any information last time. The mayor had been told a couple days before you came, and we weren't, and we didn't have any information at that time. But we have been brought up to speed by Westwood that the classes are at max, and they can't offer us any additional help like they have in the past. So I think the council and the mayor,
Yeah,
we talked about
we've
talking
already
to you.
started
and-
to research some, but yes, if you would like to be in and, suggest other classes that we can bring to the township for, people.
Because you said it's
at
14,
your-
it's 14 individuals that were going to Westwood that could now stay in Township and possibly add another 20 individuals, so you have a full class here. But
Yes.
that's all at this time, we have the ability to offer something like that. But the Westwood thing, we've
We've been told
is
was
not
at
an option.
capacity, and they couldn't necessarily, at this time, commit to adding more classes. That's what we were told in the last meeting, but, based on what you're saying, I will reach out to them again and, see if there's another miscommunication. I apologize if there is in advance, but to my understanding, that's what they told us.
Mr. DeSena, my whole philosophy in life is be part of the solution, not part of the problem. If you give me the name and the contact information for whoever I can meet with, I'm happy to do that as soon as they're available.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to set up a meeting with you and Mr. Sedekase, our recreation director, and we'll get it going.
And he'll be here?
Yeah, he's here, he's here every day.
Every day.
right? He's upstairs every day.
I did make contact with him once without response, and I did come to visit him one time, and he wasn't here.
Why don't you call Mrs. Witkowski or Mr. Tovo?
Okay.
And they'll make sure, because he does do property maintenance, so I'm not making excuses for him, but
He
you
wears
may
a
have
few
just...
different hats.
You may have just missed him because he was out doing inspections on property maintenance, so why don't you call either Mrs.
set up an
Witkowski or
appointment.
Mr. Tovo, and then we could sit down and hopefully be able to bring the classes you would like to the ability that you've been experiencing in Westwood here to Township,
Fantastic.
okay?
May I just have one
And the
last
sooner the
word?
better. The sooner we can set this up, the better it will be, because then you're not going to miss all these classes.
Terrific.
Okay.
I would like to compliment Ms. Witkowski. I reached out to everyone for a copy of the minutes. I know she is obligated to observe Oprah, but she responded to me in a timely fashion. She didn't take the 7 days that were allotted to her, and I certainly respect that. And my last comment is that I see how many hours you put in day and night. Your last meeting was 1 hour and 37 minutes. And I know that you went into private session after that. So I'd like to thank each and every one of the members of the council and you, Mr. Mayor, for all the time that you devote to the township residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully this will be a great solution for everybody, and hopefully your group of 14 becomes a group of 30, we'd like to see.
That would be fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mike, may I ask one
Yes.
question? So I just want to be clear. The funding is not an issue. It's the capacity of the class.
Capacity of the classes.
Okay.
Correct.
So what we came up with, and I think I have everybody on the dais, is support, Mr. Brunei, is to bring it to Township and run our own program to the ability that they've been getting in Westwood.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Good evening.
Adita Robertson, 355 Gallup Street, Township of Washington. This could be moot, I don't know. I'm here again to talk about the Forever Young program held at the Westwood Community Center. Although at present, there are now 13 township members taking an assortment of classes, the actual amount of $3,500 to be paid by the township to Westwood would cover all and any future township members. And I have been told by Gary Buckheiser,
Okay.
by the rec department. Otherwise, the township residents would be charged a fee per class, which we are presently paying. I do understand there is a small amount of classes for seniors in our town, but because of the large selection of classes available in Westwood, my needs are more adaptable to them. I encourage our fellow township seniors to join the Forever Young program, especially if a joint agreement is later agreed upon. After attending the May 6th council meeting, Mrs. Bolton and I felt quite positive as to what transpired. We felt our voices were heard and appreciated the concerns and possible solutions expressed by the mayor and council. Again, we are asking for favorable solution and true reciprocity, if not now, but at least in 2020. Hopefully, the present and future seniors of the township will benefit by our efforts and your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and address the council at this time? Oh. Good evening.
Digito, 17 Darling Terrace. If we can get a program like we're used to going to in Westwood, that would be absolutely wonderful. We'd all be the happiest people around. So, yeah, if we can work that out, that'd be amazing. Thank you.
If the three of yous, because I shouldn't say yous, the three youths, right? Yeah, somebody's gonna make fun of me. Somebody's gonna make fun of me tonight on Facebook. Right? If you three would be, could please reach out and get, some kind of communication going with the recreation director and see what we'd like to add to those classes that we already offer. We're going to try our hardest, correct, Mr. Mayor, to get them here.
Yeah, I just want to, you keep saying director, Mike, it'll be the rec coordinator.
Rec coordinator,
Yes.
excuse me, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. Just
He
a
wears
little bit
many
of
hats,
confusion.
yeah, so the rec coordinator. But reach out to Mrs. Witkowski and she'll,
Great. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up?
Good evening, Kevin Doyle, 655 Front Street. Just two quick comments. I just wanted to comment on how great the Memorial Day Parade was this year. It was a pretty good turnout right in front of Town Hall. I think it's important that we always respect and honor our veterans, especially on Memorial Day, because they were the ones who answered the call to defend our country when we need it the most, and we should give them the absolute most respect that they deserve all year round, not just on Memorial Day, but every single day of the year. My second comment is, I was present at the last public meeting, and there were some comments made about the forensic accounting that Mr. Bruno, that you brought up. Are we ever going to see any clarity as to the reason why the forensic accounting was brought up, and what is your result of what was brought up at the last meeting?
So the forensic accounting was brought up because, in my opinion, I felt that the financial records that we were presented to council weren't quite in order. And I won't get into a long story, but I felt, in addition to that, there were entries made, there were large sums of payments made for past due invoices for 15 years or so. Okay. And I just don't feel that we've ever received the full reconciliation of any of it.
Okay.
So that's part of what we discussed to bring in a forensic accountant.
Okay.
In terms of where I'm at, I've spoken to several firms. Some are quite pricey, some aren't, so I'm trying to narrow it down to see what it is we can do and afford to hone in on certain of the activities that I want to look at.
Okay. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Would anyone else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing no one, motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinances, adoption under second reading, ordinance number 19-10, an ordinance prohibiting animals from certain enumerated recreational facilities in the Township of Washington. Resolution number 19-208, authorizing second reading and opening a public hearing for ordinance 19-10. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Would anybody, right? Would
Took it
anybody-
away from me.
Would anybody like to address the ordinance prohibiting animals from certain enumerated recreational facilities
Take
in
a
the
roll
township?
call? Do roll call?
No,
first?
not until we take a comment. Anyone? Gentlemen, anyone on the dais? I thank everyone for supporting this on the dais. It's a very important thing to keep the dogs and all the animals off the fields. It's disgusting that our children have to play on them, and we have plenty of residents in town and other towns that come here and let their dogs run freely and have their fun on our fields and leave it there. So it's a great thing to see this finally getting passed.
Hopefully near future, Mr. President, that we have our own dog park, so we don't have to go to Westwood or Ridgewood. We've talked about it in previous councils. We do have an area
Well, our
for it.
baseball fields aren't our dog.
No, they are not. That's why if you have a separate one for the dogs, we could probably alleviate some of the problems at the playing field.
Thank
So
you.
hopefully next budget season, we'll be able to put some funds away. It's not an expensive project, but I think it's a project that a community like Washington Township probably needs at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to close public hearing for ordinance number 19-10.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 19-10 at second reading by title?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinance number 19-11, an ordinance under Chapter 55 of the Code of the Township of Washington, setting forth the range of compensation and manner of payments of employees for the year 2019. Resolution number 19-209, authorizing second reading and opening of public hearing for ordinance 19-11. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, gentlemen?
No, thank you.
No? Anyone from the public? Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to close public hearing for ordinance 19-11.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 19-11 at second reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. On the consent agenda, all of the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution number 19-210, supporting participation in the Sustainable New Jersey Municipal Certification Program. Resolution number 19-211, authorize refund of balance of escrow funds, 231 Beach Street, Block 4410, Lot 58. Resolution number 19-212, authorize submission of Chapter 159 budget amendment for body armor grant 2019. Resolution number 19-213, authorize refund of redemption of certificate in the amount of $37,741.04, plus premium in the amount of $24,100, total amount of $55,841.04 for 663 Burke Street, Block 2109, Lot 2, tax lien delinquent taxes 2017. Resolution number 19-214, authorize appointment of municipal representatives to Bergen County Community Development Regional Committee. And resolution number 19-215, authorize submission of Chapter 159 budget amendment for the DOT fiscal year 2017 municipal aid of Woodfield Road. Would anyone like any of the resolutions removed?
Yes, I would.
Your house.
Yes, yes.
So, gentlemen, we're going to remove 211 for a separate vote because that is Dr. Cassio's home. So, is everybody okay
I
with?
want to comment on it.
You want to comment on it when we come
Yeah.
back to it, please? Do I have a motion to proceed?
I'm sorry, Mike, can you just, the 213 is a large number, can you just, someone just explain what that, was these taxes that somebody finally paid, and we're giving them back now?
Judy,
That is something that would have gone to tax sale. So the homeowner came in and redeemed the lien. So it's really a wash, money that we collected that we're giving back.
Okay, that sounds,
Is that okay, Mr. Brewer?
Yep.
So we can leave it in?
yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, so we're going to proceed with 210, 212, 213, 214, 215. Do I have a motion?
Motion, second,
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Going back to resolution number 19-211, authorize refund of balance of escrow funds, 231 Beach Street, block 4410, lot 58.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. That is...
Motion second.
Oh, go
Hold on,
ahead.
I need
go
a
ahead.
motion.
Go.
Motion, gentlemen, to
Second.
Sorry.
Mr. Bruno and Mr. Cummings, second. Discussion?
Yeah, the discussion is this, just,
Could you speak into the
yeah,
mic?
a PSA for the residents. If you have had any building done in the last 20 years and you had escrow monies put down, a lot of times they are not given back. They're somewhere in an account somewhere. So if you feel you have money, please contact the building department or the clerk and find out if you have any escrow monies out there, because I did a construction over 12 years ago and just realized that there's some money still outstanding from those escrows. So if you think you had some or you do some, please call the township, because it's probably out there.
Thank you.
Can I just amend that and say call the finance office?
Finance?
The building
Okay.
clerk wouldn't know.
Is it fine? Who do you want, who should we call? Finance?
Finance office.
Actually, I would say call me the CFO.
Okay, call the CFO then.
Call Judy Cummings.
So, just a question, how did you figure that out, or, you know?
Well, remember we were discussing during budget time,
Yeah.
there was some that were in account that the account should have been, they should have been separate accounts, correct, Judy?
Yes.
For each particular escrow. And they were thrown in there, so I asked her to check, and she says, well, you only have one from 1995 when I bought the house for CO, but I did an addition in the meantime. So she checked into it and she found that there was monies outstanding or due back. So that's something that we have to clear up in the books, and you're working on that,
We're
right?
working on that, yes. And actually, I did speak to the auditor, and he said he's okay with us not opening up individual accounts as long as I keep track of all the interest that's earned.
Right.
And I'm willing to do that. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
That would actually save time and save money, because a lot of banks don't want to get into those small escrow accounts.
Sure, as long as we're
So
doing
I
it
don't
and
mind doing
people know
that.
that we're tracking it.
Yes.
Okay, and then I think there should be something in place that's saying, listen, you know, this has been closed out for X amount of years, maybe, you know, people forget.
Oh, no,
We should be
and we're doing
proactive.
that. We've been analyzing.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
So you'll probably get a slew of phone calls now.
That's
Well,
okay. No
people- it's
problem.
people's money, they deserve their money back.
We want to straighten it out, clear it up.
Let's straighten it out.
Thank you. Roll call on 211.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Abstain.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Adjournment to conference agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can I do my PSA really quick?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes. Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Quick PSA, the Recreation Department Summer Rec sign up. For those looking to sign their children up for our summer recreation program, please visit Community Pass, our online sports registration system, and our recreation sports page for further information, including fees, summer camp handbook, and calendar. Mosquito control public notice in compliance with Section 9.10 of the New Jersey Pesticide Control Code. The Bergen County Department of Public Works Mosquito Control Division will be applying pesticides for the control and reduction of adult mosquito populations on an area-wide basis as needed throughout Bergen County during the period from April 30th, 2019 to October 31st, 2019. For more information on mosquitoes and mosquito control, contact the Bergen County Mosquito Control Program at 201-634-2880 or 201-634-2881. The Pascack Valley Junior Police Academy, which consists of the Township of Washington, Westwood, Emerson Police Departments, community policing units, will conduct a junior police academy for qualified boys and girls between the ages of 10 and 14. This 5-day program will be held at Westwood High School June 24th through June 28th. The daily schedule is from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Please visit the Township website for an application. Township paper shredding and e-recycling event will take place on Saturday, July 20th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the Town Hall parking lot. Keep your cars locked, take your keys fobs out. It is always important to take precautions and stay safe. If you see something, say something. Reminder, if you're having a raffle, a permit is needed, please visit the Township Clerk. Thank you.
Mike, just one quick note on the summer rec program. I met with the rec coordinator and the summer rec coordinator. We are at capacity, 400 people or 400 children. So if you do sign up now, you will be on a waiting list.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I hope you sign your kids up for the Junior Police Academy. It's always fantastic.
Mr. Yurkinik supposed to be here? Okay. All right, so moving on the conference agenda, we told Mr. Yurkinik a little later than normal. So I see Mr. Beinfeld, but I don't see Mr. May. Can we tell Mr. May to come later also, or?
8:15.
8:15, okay. Let's move on to the project tracker, and then we'll go back to those two subjects, this gentleman. So the project tracker, Mr. Tovo?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, a couple of updates since this was prepared last week. 2019 road program calculations are almost complete. It should be done by the end of the week.
When will we be going out to bid?
We're trying to put the package together now. I'd like to have it out to bid, like I said, the end of the month or probably early July.
Okay.
Intersection, received word that the county will be preparing a resolution for their July 2nd meeting to enter into a shared service agreement between the township and the county. So things are moving along nicely.
Thank you.
88 curb cuts on county roads. The calculations are done. I'm waiting for the information from the county so we can prepare a PO direct to the contractor. They anticipate starting that in July. No change on the Class 7 or the Class 5, the breathalyzer either.
The Class 5 is ordered. We have POs cut and...
That's correct.
Okay.
The radio system upgrade analysis, we have a meeting scheduled for 6/21 to review the potential pricing models. No changes on the DMF building. The basketball court should be ready for a bid package, or at least preparation of the bid package by the end of next week. No change on signage. No change, I'm sorry, the firehouse. R.J. Connolly does plan on presenting at our next meeting on June 17th. Police records clerk administrator, first round of interviews have been conducted. The final round will be tomorrow morning. And grant writer, 2 firms have been evaluated. We will have a recommendation at the next council meeting.
Could we be provided why, the 2 that we interviewed before the next council meeting, Mr. Tovo, just so we could review and realize how you came to the decision of why we're picking that one, please,
Certainly.
before the meeting? So this
Yes.
way we could all have an educated, we're not reading it the day before, if you don't mind. Anything else?
That's all I have.
I observed the utility markout person at the intersection this week.
Good.
Progress.
Yes.
You betcha.
That is. Mike, may I ask a question, please?
Sure, Mr.
On the
Bruno.
DMF building, Bob?
Yes, sir.
The big bid package is going out. What is the bid?
On
Let
the
me ask
DMF
two- let me
building?
ask 2 questions. What is I don't have my package, I'm sorry, I ran, is it in there?
No, it is not in there.
Oh, okay. So what are we bidding for?
Nothing on the DMF building.
I thought you said the,
No, they're evaluating locations for temporary operations during demolition and construction of the new facility.
oh, so,
So that's being done by our engineer, which he'll discuss tonight when he gets here.
I'm not sure I'll be ready for those comments tonight, but
Okay. But he is evaluating.
we are evaluating, yeah.
so that's for what to do in the interim?
Correct.
Yes.
And then we have to bid on the building or knock down and build?
Well, it's definitely, we have to
Plus-
knock down, then we have to get Quest involved to do the
Soil
remediation.
remediation,
And then
okay.
we have to build a new one.
Okay. Thank you.
Under financials, the 2019 Clean Communities Grant Awards.
You have ordinances, the letter?
Yep, under ordinances and legislation. Oh, the new letter, New Jersey Senate Support Resolution Follow-Up.
The 19,333, I think it is.
Excuse me?
I think it's 19,000.
Not yet. No, we're not there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I went a step ahead. We're on ordinances and legislation. We had a New Jersey Senate Support Resolution Follow-Up, which is in our packet, gentlemen. It's for the Path to Progress report that Senator Sweeney put out. So they've asked us if we're in support of it to, issue a resolution. It's in the middle of your packet. It's got a path to progress. It's about 35 pages or something of a double-sided document.
And what's the long and short of it?
It's basically a $150 billion, it's to stop the pension stopgap that's been done through the years. So whereas local government pension systems are funded at the national average, the state's unfunded liability for pension and retiree health benefits now tops $150 billion, 4 times the size of the state budget. Whereas actuaries project the state will have to increase the pension contribution from $3.2 billion in this year's budget to $6.7 billion to reach the actuarially required contributions, the ARC, by fiscal year 2023. Whereas healthcare costs continue to rise and New Jersey and its local governments cannot sustain the unparalleled platinum level benefits that they provide to their employees. This was something, if you haven't read the 39 pages, we should table until the next meeting, because it's an important.
Yeah,
I
okay.
thought everybody would be ready after getting their packet, but I guess we'll have to table after the next meeting, because
Okay.
if we do pass it, it is something. Moving on, the 2000.
It's just a resolution you're passing.
It's a resolution, but what the resolution is stating is that, we got to get our butts in gear, because we're looking at a lot of unfunded pensions in the whole state of New Jersey, and they're having to be paid.
Yeah, well, it's, gotta pay the piper sometime.
I worked 30 years for this, I hope it works.
Financials, 2019 Clean Communities Grant Awards, Judy?
I believe they were getting 19,933. I think it's in the last.
It's in our
sheet of the
packet, yeah.
package, right? And just to let you know, that'll be another chapter 159 on
The next meeting?
next, as soon as we actually see the money coming in.
Okay.
Gentlemen, any questions on the grant we're receiving? Is that what we got last year, Judy, or close to it?
We were
Close to it.
just over 20,000 last year.
So we're very close, okay.
Right. I think
So
it
our
was- I think it
budget,
was-
so our budgeted number, we're okay with what we put in the budget?
And that was earmarked for what specifically?
That's Clean Communities.
So
Every town gets that?
Whatever is in that category,
Yes.
we can spend it on.
Just
I think it's supposed to be used for like promoting recycling,
Recycling,
Yeah,
things like that.
cleanups, things like
Green
that.
stuff.
Right.
Green things.
On the grants, were we supposed to look at a grant for Woodfield tonight?
I think it's in the resolution, chapter 159.
Yeah, that's the
That was in the
159
street
resolution.
engineering that the engineer's going to go over
But
with.
where-
No, there's a 159, there's
There's
a,
another one?
The Woodfield
the
Road.
Woodfield Road one, that's,
That was applied for, I guess, sometime in the past, maybe 17, 18, it finally came through. It was actually for a 17-road program. The money finally came in. But we have to do a chapter 159 to amend the budget in order to spend it.
So.
We
the
did
way-
that already.
The way we understood that back then was when we budgeted for the road program, we included the total cost of Woodfield, even though we had the grant, because we were told we had to do that. And now, so we paid for it, Woodfield's done. So now this money comes back to us and the grant receivable gets written off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Judy, can you, I guess, school us a little of how we've been doing it wrong in the past and why we're doing the Chapter 159s from now on? Just
Well,
so this
actually,
council-
I had a conversation with Mr. Byfield earlier today. You can write the ordinance, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. You can write the ordinance where you include the grant.
Correct.
Okay, and then you don't have to do a Chapter 159, okay? But if you don't include it, then you have to do the 159 in order to spend the money. Am I correct in that? Right. So we discussed going forward, we could change it if you'd like to do it that way. That's up
What,
to...
what would your, Mr. Beinfeld, if you just come up to the microphone, so. How do most towns operate? Either way, or what is,
Seen it both
what is your
ways.
recommendation? 'Cause-
If it's easier and gets things done and convenient to put an extra section in the bond ordinance to bring any, usually when we write the ordinance, we'll have an idea of if a grant may be coming in or if it's not coming in, so then we know exactly what to do. If we're not, if there, we don't want to include surplus, too much surplus wording if we don't need it, but if it's convenient, because these things come from time to time, it's just dropping another section in, and if it makes it easier to administer.
So the Chapter 159 is the right way to do it then?
The only thing is, though, what I would ask is that if you're not going to get the grant, I'm used to actually borrowing what we need to borrow, and then if we get the grant, apply it after the fact, so you have enough money?
Yeah, so, well, if I get it right, Judy.
I mean, you-
So, you know, if you know you're getting a grant, if you don't know you're getting a
Right.
grant, you can't, you just
Yeah, you're not-
appropriate for the cost that
Right.
you're expecting to pay for the project, and if the grant comes in, you have some money and you don't have to spend what else you appropriated. So that's easy enough. A different question might come up if you're doing a road project for $300,000 and you know you're getting $100,000 in. You know, do you authorize borrowing in advance of the grant because it may not come in timely, so you don't want to have to sit around and wait for the grant to come in. You want to pay a contractor and do the project. So,
But Judy,
but it's easy enough to just authorize, and if you don't need the money, you don't borrow it.
You don't borrow it, exactly.
It's
I know,
very simple.
I know our new engineer is on the ball, and we're going to get 75% of our grant the day the bids are received. A week after the bids are received, it should be escrowed into our bank. Or, I don't know if you're working on...
I have to tell you, my past experience has been that engineers have said that, and the state hasn't come through on a timely basis. Just to let you know.
It happens, but the way it's supposed to work is that if we get a local aid grant, as soon as we award the contract, we're supposed to be able to submit our 75% voucher, and then typically, you know, there have been a couple fiscal years because the governors are playing games
Yes,
that
they were very
doesn't happen.
behind last
But
year.
for the most part, once you put that 75% voucher in, a week later it's in your bank account. For the most part, you know, except when the governors are playing games.
I didn't see it last year, I don't know.
My understanding, my experience has been, and I'm not there receiving it, I'm just on the other end
Right.
writing the thing, and then I don't know what happens all the time, but my understanding, Mr. President, is like yours, particularly with respect to the DOT.
The DOT grants, well, I'm talking the local aid grants,
Those are coming in much more timely than they used to come in. Maybe there's a hiccup every now and then, some of those, but that, my understanding is there isn't typically a cash flow, there isn't as frequent a cash flow issue on the DOT grants as there may have been
Well, this one
years
was
ago.
DOT of 17, and it came in 19.
Because we didn't do our paperwork. If you
Right,
look at the when you
that's what I'm saying, so it
when
has
you
to
go
be
through
a
when you go through the, you know, I would think our new administrator and our CFO would be on the ball to know, hey, we didn't submit the 75%
Well, this is it,
voucher
and that's what we need to
2 years
watch.
later. So that's what we need to watch.
Between the engineering and CFO, no, it needs to be a coordination and
Well, we
follow-up.
don't want to write off any more receivables
No.
that we don't get, so.
No.
Whatever we have to do, if we, you know, again, I think to me, there's a timing difference, but I don't know when we actually knew we would get the Woodfield grant, but I know our former administrator said we could spend the money, you can't deduct it from the program, and then when it comes in, you use it. So somewhere, we must have known that we were going to get this money. I just don't know where that timing is. Because we lost years ago on some other thing.
Yeah, we did because we didn't apply to.
Yeah, so I don't know what the safest way is, other than, you know.
Well, the problem is right now that I had, the money's coming in, but there wasn't enough appropriation in the ordinance. So I cannot pay
yeah.
anything until I amended the budget.
Until you just chapter.
So you don't want really have to run into that.
Sounds like the
You know.
safest and easiest thing to do is just to drop a paragraph in, and then you
And-
don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
again.
Exactly.
All right, thank you. Under miscellaneouses, electronic message from From Bergen County Open Space Grant, Board of Chosen Freeholders, the $30,000 grant for the Senior Citizens Park Bocce Court. Sue, you wanted to get some dates for them to come to our meeting?
Yeah, if you would prefer to be in a meeting, do you want to do it at the park, or you want to put it in front of the,
Can we do it at a meeting, please?
yeah, you may do it at a meeting, you do whatever you want to have all advice.
Outside at the park. Oh, this is make it nice.
Have you been to the park?
I've been to the park. It's beautiful.
Bocce court's nice.
That's why we're getting the $30,000
Yeah.
grant.
If we
But
could,
it's summer,
if
it's
we could
outside.
invite them to our next meeting, that'd be great.
No, the next meeting, right after the meeting after, because we're going to have firehouse.
Oh, and so the meeting after.
July?
Yeah. And then we've already discussed the exercise programs, gentlemen, unless you have something else to add, Mr. Bruno?
Nope.
But let's just check for the capacity for each class. You know, not for the whole program, but,
Right.
you know, Mary Ellen said there's 14, not 14 classes, 6 or 7 classes, and some were at capacity and some were not. I want to know which ones are, what the capacity is, and what their present attendance is.
Thank you.
And this way we can figure out, you know, if they have capacity in one class, we don't have to duplicate it, which wouldn't be effective.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Beinfeld and Mr. May, you're up.
see, you walk through the door and you're on.
That's it.
You know? First come, first serve. That's how it works.
Let me just bring these out in the meantime. You got something to scribble on.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
You can fill in all the zeros with, you know, black ink.
There you go.
Thank you for the info.
Okay. He's calculating something.
Thank you.
Let's see, I think.
Thank you.
we have enough here.
It's all right, I'll look over your shoulder. Okay. Take a chair, take a chair. Yeah.
We got enough for that. Okay. And one here,
Oh, great.
and since Mr. Owen isn't here, you get a present too.
Thanks.
You don't get one. Oh, sure. No big deal. Okay.
Thank you, John, for attending.
Okay, my pleasure. Want me to go? Yeah, might as well. What I just handed you is the study, for lack of a better word, the compilation that we put together of various scenarios potentially for a possible bond sale. I could put a lot of possibles in there because you haven't decided, and we pushed for this meeting, and because if you're going to have a bond sale before the notes are due, we need to move forward. Okay. And in typical accountant fashion, we said we did this and we did that, but you can't count on it. Okay. So,
Okay, there you go. I like honesty. Honesty is good.
Listen, you know,
It's good.
you have to. It's all in the language. What I did here was the first page on page 2.
Could you gentlemen pull your microphone more closely? TV's asking for that.
Okay.
I guess you to make sure you get yours there.
I'm good, I think.
Thank you.
So what I did here on page 2
Okay.
is summarize the various ordinances and the original issue date of the notes, the ordinance numbers, the useful life, which Bob was kind enough to provide to me, and I calculated the average useful life. And that's by taking a weighted average of all the lives and, you know, so anyhow. Of course, there was some discussion earlier, I think, about how long of a bond sale, you know, how long of an issue you might have. Well, the most you could do is 10 years. Okay, so that kind of narrowed that part down a little bit. And there's 2 numbers here.
I'm sorry,
you're
Lou.
saying-
10 years on bands?
No, well, you can get 10 years on bands, but you can, because when you sell these bonds, if you sell these bonds, you can only put them out for 10 years.
So we can't go out for a 15 and 20?
You can't do a 15, you can't do an 11-year issue.
Yeah, just not on these items on this page,
Oh, yeah,
right?
well, this is everything, this is all of your outstanding bans
Right.
right now. It does not contemplate any of your new things because those projects haven't really kicked off per se.
Okay.
And
But there's nothing, this is our debt, and it's all in bands except for the 440, which goes in 19, right? Right, so that's done, and this is, all we have is this in bands
this,
right
right.
now.
Right.
The 5.725, let's call it.
Yes.
Well, you have 6 million outstanding currently. You have budgeted 274,000, which could bring the amount that you bond down to 5,725,000.
Correct.
Okay. There are other options that we might discuss later on too, with respect to that. Okay. The next page, page 3.
I'm sorry. Can I go back for 1 second?
Sure.
So, let's just take the first one, 9905.
Right.
There's 24,000 that we are paying in bands interest on,
Right.
right? And this amount has been used, or is this still outstanding? Or is this unfunded?
No, these are outstanding bans, and in New Jersey accounting, that means it's unfunded.
Unfunded.
Okay, so,
It doesn't become funded until you go to permanent financing or pay it off.
okay, so is this a leftover balance? Let me put it that way.
No,
No.
these are.
Okay, so this is,
would
okay.
be, and Lou knows a little better because of the books, but if that's what your question, Councilman, is, these are the amount of debt we have outstanding. It doesn't relate in any way, really, to the amount of the proceeds of that debt that have been spent or that may be around. Those are two
Okay, but that number we have,
concepts.
that number we have from your financials,
Yeah,
Yes.
that number is,
600 some odd thousand.
yeah, it's on Exhibit C3, I believe.
Okay.
It has the analysis
Okay.
of,
All
by
right.
ordinance, of balances and/or deficits, as the case might be.
Okay.
So right now, we have a $6 million revolving loan, basically, that we're paying pieces of off every year, just the interest, basically, is what we have.
Oh, no, you've been paying principal.
Yeah, but it's minimal.
Yeah, the statutory minimum.
Yeah, like we owe $24,000. Instead of just paying the $24,000, we're paying $4,000 this year, another $4,000 for the next 10 years. It's going to cost us that much more, which is stupid. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so anyhow, so that's what this first exhibit is, and I gave that to you to show why we're using a life of 10 years.
Okay.
The next exhibit has, on page 3, has 2 components to it. It has the potential bond sale of $5.725 million, okay? And below that, it has the potential bond sale in 2029 for funding that $10 million that you have in for firehouse, the MF building, and all those other projects that are on your capital budget. Okay. I don't know that you'll get to that point. There's many other options to solve that problem, but anyhow. So and that's really a management and a council decision. It's not anywhere near my decision. It's up to what you guys would like to do, okay? The top of that page has the $5.725 million with
A 10-year payout.
a 10-year payout, principal numbers that kind of fit a schedule. I've used 2.35%, which is a reasonable interest rate based upon, if you look on, well, you can't even see page 4, but where page 4 is, there's a schedule, and there's a bunch of interest rates, so on and so forth in there that,
What is our Moody's rating right now?
well, you're AA plus. AA. You're one step below AAA. But, okay, so that's what your current Moody's rating is.
And that's a good rating.
That's a very good rating.
Yeah.
I know it. I'm being sarcastic.
No. That's a very good rating.
Yeah.
That's a very good
It's an
rating.
excellent rating.
So we kind of use those.
So we could stay on the lower side of interest because we have such a good rating. I know until we go out for sale,
yes.
but
Given the parameters here, the one I picked 2.35 for a AA plus, Monroe Township.
Monroe Township, yeah.
However, that's also a 19-year issue.
So it might be even less,
Right.
because it's only 10.
Could be.
Right? I mean,
That's what I was looking at.
The longer it goes
The
out,
higher your interest rates.
the more risk involved to the person that's bought. So they'd like a little extra coverage in there. So
Just very quickly, Lou, as what you say, if you, on the list there is the county. Bergen County just went out a week or so ago. So they're closer to a 10-year. They're really a 12-year or so, and they're AAA, and they came in at 2 even. So you're probably, as you say,
Be at close to
President,
2.
you'll probably be in somewhere in the middle range in there.
2.15.
The good news
2.15.
is rates have been actually, in the last little bit are continuing, on the daily basis as opposed to the macro basis, seem to be trending down yet more. I just was looking back 6 months ago, our rates were
Trending high.
the treasurer.
it was going the other way.
In November, everybody expected 2 or 3 rate increases this year, and the treasury is now 1.01, I think I checked this morning, below where it was
Great
just
time
6
for us to
months
be
ago.
doing this.
Right. So it's a good time to be considering, yes.
And on page 5, you'll see what we had last time was the March 26th sale of Oradell. And they were a AA plus of 2 also. And their interest rate was 2.12% in March. So it goes up, it goes down, depends on the news. The only thing this exercise was trying to accomplish was give you some numbers to kind of put your hands around and say, yeah, here's the magic numbers. It's going to be plus or minus a little bit. I ran a couple of other scenarios where it was like a tenth of a point less, a tenth of a point more, and over the life of the bonds, it was like $30,000, $40,000. Really didn't make
a difference.
Didn't make a lot of difference. And so, but anyhow, I just wanted to go over those, page 4 and 5, just.
So what, I guess, looking at all this, a lot of effort went into this, I say. If we were to go out at 2.125, let's just call it that. I know we're making up numbers now. What would it cost us? What is it going to cost us?
Well, I would, as I just said, with 1/10 of a point, that's 2/10 of a point less. It would be like $60,000 less interest over the life of the bonds over 10 years. We're not talking a big bunch of money.
Well, I guess right now we're putting $250,000 every. We put $274,000 in last year's budget, right? We put $274,306.
Right.
If we go out for the 10-year ban, I'm looking at a debt service of. What's it going to cost us? $859? Is that?
Well, given a couple of scenarios that. Let's assume that interest rate and the maturities that I did a very aggressive pay down year 1. A very aggressive pay down. Because.
So we'd have to come up with another $500,000 more than $500,000 next year to pay that.
Well, yes.
Well,
However.
you did an aggressive principal pay down.
Yeah.
Right.
However, you're not going to have any ban interest or ban principal next year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you start with the 274, right?
Yeah.
So we start with the 274, and what's our interest for these bands?
Well, this year, if you just go to page 7, that'll
I'm sorry,
help.
I didn't see that one.
No, that's okay. Your question leads to page 7. Okay. What I did on page 7 was track your debt service and capital expenditures for the last 4 years. Okay? It was $1 million for a combination of $1 million of debt and $55,000 of capital in 16. $1 million of debt in 17 and $5,000 of capital in 17.
And then people want to know why our streets are falling apart.
Well, you were bonding them. You were authorizing debt.
Yeah, we were doing bad, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you were still spending money that you had accumulated over the years. In 18, you had $1,084,000 of debt, and you've put $560,000 of it. That's a combination of actual cash, but most of that is down payment money and funding 100% of certain ordinances, okay? And in 19, you can see your debt service went down because that one bond ordinance
Got taken off the book.
fell off the books, right? But you kept your capital up high because you had first of all, you had to put down for planned
The 5%.
$10 million to put down. You need the 5%. That's so, and then there was, you put an extra 50,000 in, and then there was 10,000 for the funding of the ambulance that you've been doing over the years, okay? And that basically gave you a whole $1,453,000. So now take a look at, let's go back to page 3, okay? So on page 3, we talk about, so let's assume for discussion purposes, these numbers are pretty close, okay? So if that's accurate, then the only thing you had to do would be $859,000, and you would be going down by about $500,000 in total debt and capital, which is really what you have to look at those I look at those as a bundle, because they're both for the same purposes generally.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and so, and I did that so when you were contemplating what you would do going forward, you would say, okay, 859 seems like a pretty decent number, but maybe we'd still do cash payments for projects next year, whatever.
I mean, smaller ones?
Could be a $500,000 project.
No, you're right.
Okay. So anyhow, so those are some of the concepts. So anyhow, as I went down, since I was being very aggressive, and then in year 2021, I was
I'm sorry.
assuming.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is your thought process behind being very aggressive on principal with a 2% interest rate? Just to pay it down?
Well, to pay it down, number one, and you're going to start having to, in 3 years, you're going to have to start paying principal on this $10 million that you're going to go out for, number one.
Right.
I agree, 2%. You would like to keep 2% hanging around as long as possible. So that's what you could adjust it. You could reduce that and spread it out, put more money into cash capital next year, that's what
More
I'm saying.
self-funded projects.
Yeah, this is all,
So where does, so I get the 2019 $5,725,000, and I see you paying it down with the interest. Where's the 10 million that we're looking at, or 8 million, whatever it is? Where is that, the firehouse and everything else? Where is that?
that's coming in, if you look at the ban interest, that $175,000. You see that?
No, sorry.
Third
1, 2, 3,
column from the
4,
left,
5,
from the
6
Oh,
column,
okay,
third
ban
column
interest,
from the
yeah,
right.
okay, ban interest, yeah.
Okay. That contemplated a 2.5% interest at this time. I have no,
Yeah.
because the ban interest is going to move quickly.
That's 2.5% on what? The 10 million?
10 million. Or
So,
5
so,
million.
so this,
Yeah.
so the balance, the 5 million, 5,725 and 5 million and 4,450, somewhere that should be like 15 million, right? The balance, because you don't have,
You're getting the 10?
No.
why? Where are you showing the 10 million?
The 10 million doesn't show here at
It
all.
doesn't show there.
Right.
The 10 million is only in our calculation based upon your
So
capital
Lou,
plan.
you're saying, go out for 10-year financing for the existing bands.
That's
and
what
then
we...
roll the new 10 million in debt into bands again?
Yes.
Yes.
Why?
Because...
That's why I wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons is you haven't started the projects, you haven't, you may have authorized, you can authorize part of those projects, but you need to spend your money down within 3 years. So you can't, nobody really goes out.
Well, before you got here, the fire department plans and specifications is going to be here in the next couple months.
Okay.
So we're looking at $6 million for that. I think we put another $1.5 million next year for the, no, well, we're buying the pumper this year, right? The engine this year.
Correct.
In the budget. And next year we're buying the ladder. Was it next year or the year after we're buying the ladder truck?
Next year.
Next year we got a $1.5 million ladder truck. So in 2020, we're looking at $7.5 million.
Notes.
However we pay that $7.5 million.
With notes.
Wouldn't we go out for permanent financing for that?
He's recommending no.
Well, you might, for sure, but the whole key is going to be two or three things. One is, how it's going to affect the end.
Because I thought that was part of this. I thought that was part of this exercise.
Yeah.
Is looking at capital, looking at our capital projects that we have coming up, and adding those and taking off. Like you said, at your first statement you made was the one came off at the beginning of at the end of 2018. We lost the one bond ordinance, and we have another one coming off this year. Correct, Judy? We have another one, a substantial
The
one.
last payment.
Yeah.
What's that?
The last bond.
The last bond payment is
40,000.
this year. So I thought part of this exercise was to show last year's bond coming off, this year's bond coming off, the band's becoming a new 10-year bond, and how we were going to get at least the $7.5 million for the end of this year and early next year for the two major projects that we've put on our capital.
Well, I think so here's my understanding, which I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying here, but I just want to understand one thing. The debt service, all the way to the right, will be our annual debt service on a cash flow basis for the current bands, and if we ban 10 million, for that too, correct? So we, on a cash flow basis, we know we're going to spend 859 to 1.1 million every year up till 2029.
Yes.
Right?
Based upon these calculations.
Yeah, right. No, I
Maybe a
understand.
little less. Maybe a little less if you.
Not for the new financing.
No, that includes the bands.
Yeah, it includes the new financing, yeah, because that's...
It sounds like it includes the interest on the new bands as well as...
Some band principal, yes.
some as
You
the
have
AAA
$250,000 starting in 2022 of band principal payments.
And
Which
that's
is a good-
And that's based upon the minimum statutory, which there's assumed a 20% useful life.
Okay,
Anyhow, that comes out to be $250,000.
Right.
So basically, so Lou, if anything, the only thing that would change on your table under potential total debt services, right? Like, let's just say if we plug 2020 into your thing, we would get to the $1 million numbers a lot quicker.
Yeah, if you bond.
No, I'm saying if, like, let's just say you have us going out for the 10 million, you have us getting the $10 million in year 2021. The bands.
20.
In 20.
Issuing
Bands.
20.
Okay. No, so what I'm saying is, like, let's just say we issue them at the end of 19, it would just push everything up
We'd
a
move
year.
it up early.
So you pay another year of $1 million instead of 849, just to.
No, you pay the interest on just the 170.
Yeah, you just pay another $175,000, say, in,
Everything would move up.
That's what I'm saying, everything would move up, we
everything
pay the
would move
million
up.
a year sooner, like I'm
Yeah,
saying, yeah.
yeah.
Everything would move up one
that's
spot, and we
right.
pay the $1 million a year sooner, instead of another 829 payment, we're gonna make $1.6 million payment or something, $1.06 million payment.
If you issue the ban in December this year, as opposed to January next year, everything goes up
Up one,
wrong.
yeah, that's what I was saying, so I am correct.
And we can take these bands anytime, right now, and bond them. Is that correct? For permanent bonding?
the current.
The current ones.
Oh, yeah, well, it takes 6 weeks.
No, I mean, we don't have a waiting period to bond it, right? The new bands that come in, Don't we have to wait a little bit before we can bond them? The 10 million, let's say if we put them in bands?
You could bond them next year.
Okay, but you have up to 10 years to do it.
Yes,
Yes.
with principal
All right,
payments.
so your scenario is just saying you want to ban everything, correct?
Right.
And you're doing a cash flow somewhere between 900 to 1,000,001 for the next, to 2044.
Yes.
Is that right? And just hold on, I'm sorry, so that does not include, and that's everything on one shot, and it does not include in 5 years from now, whatever, if we want to put a new municipal building or whatever, we would just add that into this and then roll that out.
Right.
So from a cash flow standpoint, you're looking at max $1,000,001 for us for the next whatever years, 20 years, to have $15 million of debt technically as of tomorrow.
Right. And that's the reason why I did that thing on page 7.
No, absolutely.
Which said, okay, you spent $1,453,000 in total capital projects. If these numbers happen to be accurate, then you would have the difference between $1,453,000 and these numbers to have no effect on your tax rate.
Right, so the reason we're AA rated is because we have virtually no debt and lots of cash, which is a good and bad thing. As Mrs. DeSena said, that's why the streets are falling apart. We have a lot of cash and we have no debt.
Right.
So now we're going to reverse that situation.
Yeah.
We're going to have a less surplus and we're going to have more debt. So does our ratings change eventually?
Could.
I mean, it should, technically, because we're not
Yeah,
going
but
to
you're
be
still-
sitting with $5-6 million of
I don't-
cash and no debt.
Well, what I
As
guess,
long
As we get everything in right away then, right? So our rating,
Make the payment.
knowing business, you know that if you have a plan,
Yep.
and you bring that plan to the people that do their evaluation of you,
Yep.
and you give them a qualified, good plan,
they,
they appreciate that, and they can keep it the same.
okay?
They could reduce you.
because, I mean, in theory, well, in
Have you
theory,
seen it
we're
happen
gonna go.
that it would get reduced, in your
You're
experience?
still pretty healthy.
Yeah, we have money
Yeah.
that's tucked away. We
But
got
if-
money for rainy day. We want to just make sure that there's no effect to the taxpayer in the long run. That's basically what this exercise is.
Well, this
And how we're
exercise is already, the taxpayers are being affected of years past sins of not paying.
Oh, I
off
understand
these
that,
bans.
but I'm saying this
So
is,
it's already-
this is clearing up the mess,
Yep.
okay? And reducing for future.
Yeah.
Is what this is, so there's no, we'll call it a rate increase to the taxpayer in the long run by reducing the debt in an orderly fashion.
In an orderly
and paying
fashion.
down a large principal to
No,
get rid of.
No, hold on a minute. The debt is going up. We
Okay.
only have
I'm sorry.
440,000 this year, right? So next year, the debt's going up, no matter how you look at it. Not, we have to
I shouldn't
raise-
say debt
We
goes
have to
up.
raise money to pay that debt,
The
correct?
interest on this after we make the payment should
The
go
only
down.
debt that's going up would be the 10 million.
That's the only
No,
change.
I
That's the only-
understand
'cause
that,
We have
but-
6.6 million
The
for debt right
outstanding,
now.
Okay,
the
but-
outstanding bonds will be increased.
But right now,
which
we
you're gonna have to go from
borrowed tax,
Right.
we increased taxes to pay $440,000 or whatever it is for this year, right? Next year, we have to increase taxes to pay $859,000.
No.
Why?
Look at page 7 again.
That was my question.
Which one's that?
The last
That's
page.
the last
Page
page
7.
that
Yeah.
had the capital and the debt
Yeah.
components.
Because you're paying that off.
Well, yeah, well, 859 is actually less than 893.
Yeah, so you're going down.
Yeah.
Oh, look, okay, I don't want to get into semantics.
Oh, no, yeah,
All I'm saying is basically, our debt's going away, and now we're going to go back to $800 to $1 million a year.
But we've been hovering at $1 million, 893 for all these years.
No, I'm just asking the question. 2019, whatever it is, we have a $400,000 nut. That $400,000, we go out and tell we want to raise $400,000 to pay it. Next year, we're going out to raise $850,000 or
yes,
$900,000.
your bond
So we have to
principal
raise,
payments will go
Will
up.
go up.
right, so we have to raise money to pay the extra interest and principal, or however you have it structured. Correct?
Yes, and I don't know exactly, but if yes, your debt service line item goes up
Right.
without question. If in next year's or the budgets, and I don't know what to come up, if the capital contribution side of that were to go down, then when you add them both together, I think what
That's
Lou was, there is a definite distinction. Debt service is debt service, but,
Right.
but the capital is also, for capital items, it's a choice of do you debt or pay go or pay down. But if the combination of those two, and that's assuming that 560 number would not be a big number, but if that were to go substantially down because you're not paying off your bands anymore, because when you pay off your bands, that's not debt service on your bonds, but you are, that is. So I think that's...
So it's how we want to flip the numbers? It's how we want to budget, whether we budget capital and/or if we don't want to pay 725 in principal next year, we can say we're going to pay 500?
You could pay 500 in principal next year.
Yeah, I just want to understand. We can pay whatever principal we want, technically.
Yes.
So any year, if something comes up any year that we say, oh, we have to increase our taxes for X, Y, Z, other than this, and we have these big principal payments, we can reduce the principal payment for that year.
Once the bonds are issued? No.
The bands or the bonds?
Bonds.
I'm talking,
Once the bonds are issued-
but these are bands.
Just the 10 million is banned.
10 million is...
No, and the other.
No, they're
No,
not.
the other 6 million were
That
bonds.
6 mil, that 5.725?
Is bond.
Those are bonds.
Bonds.
Oh, those are bonds.
Those are bonds.
The
They
$6
will be.
million are bands.
But we're moving them into permanent
Oh, you're
financing.
moving them into
We're
bonds.
moving them to permanent financing.
Okay.
I just want to ask you one
That's why it's
question,
a fixed
Lou.
rate.
Yes,
My
and you...
assumption here is these are going to become bonds, and then you have, if you're going to issue bands for this amount, this is in your band column here?
No, that's 10 million.
I'm saying here, this is all incorporated into these final numbers here?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ban interest on the next to, the 3 columns from the left is the 10 million ban interest.
Is the tip right? Mm-hmm.
And that could be plus or minus, again.
Depending on the final rate you get.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things, but also, when I was looking at the capital budget, you had 1.3 million in the capital budget that I saw, that I think was finally adopted, for the DMF building. And in the 2017 bond ordinance, you had 1.9 million in there for the, now, I didn't know if that was the same money that you were planning on spending, or was it 1.9 plus 1.3?
We never did anything with the
No,
1.9.
It's the same, it's the same
Yes.
item.
It's the same item, but we never did anything.
So you may not even go out to $10 million.
What'd you use, 1.3 or 1.9?
No.
He used 10 million.
I use 10 million
That's
because
fine.
that's what you're planning.
That's fine.
But I'm saying there are, when you finally get into the nitty-gritty of what you're actually doing, if, I didn't know if the 1.3 and the 1.9 were cumulative, or...
No, it's not cumulative, but I've been told the 1.9 doesn't exist.
No, we never funded it.
We never funded it.
We put it in capital and did nothing with it.
I think you have notes outstanding on there.
No. Maybe, no, we never did anything with the 1.9 million. If we did, we must be missing a building.
Yeah, it's ordinance 1704.
Because I was
Yeah,
I was always under the impression they passed 1.9 million and we had 1.9 million somewhere ready to go.
So I don't know, again, the particulars, but I had a note coming in here that that's ordinance
Only a small number.
1704, we've only borrowed 75,000, but the authorization is way,
It's like
way
2.3
high.
I think it's
2.6.
2.3 million.
Yeah, 2.63, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a huge number we put in there, but we didn't borrow it all. Right, we used a
Okay,
piece of it.
so that amount of money is not yet borrowed.
Correct.
But anyhow, you have the authorization, you may not need to use the 10 million.
I don't think we put the 5% down either. We didn't do anything with it. We just put it in the budget and nothing happened with it. So there's no 5%, there's no authorization, we never voted on it, nothing happened. Not that it matters, because we're not gonna spend the money. It's gonna be 1.3 million, but the 1.9 for the DMF building was in there, was never authorized, we never put 5% down, we never borrowed anything. So it's like, doesn't exist.
Well,
It existed on a piece of paper.
it exists in a piece of paper.
Right.
And it exists in your authorized debt.
Or your debt.
If you're not going to spend that, for which you already put down your down payment and stuff, before you move forward with a bond sale,
We should find out where we are.
you should either not include the 1.3 million that you have contemplated now, and just use your one you already have authorized, okay? Or cancel the old authorization and put in the
Okay,
new
so
authorization.
I think I understand what you're saying. So we authorized 2.3 million, of 1.9 was in there.
Right.
We never borrowed it.
Never
But
borrowed.
so it's authorized, not borrowed.
Not borrowed.
So that's our problem. Not a problem, but that's where it is. So you're
That's
saying
sitting
either
there.
cancel the authorization and reissue an authorization for 1.3 when we do the DMF?
Yeah, I'm saying that's
already
what you
there.
could do, or just use the
Use what
old
you have.
one
Whatever.
and
Use the
not
old one.
authorize the new one. I mean,
Okay, or if it's okay, so we can keep the 1.9 authorized, period.
yeah,
Okay,
No harm.
That-
okay.
Okay.
okay? So anyhow,
So your recommendation is that,
no,
well,
I'm giving you information so you
Okay.
can decide. I don't have a recommendation.
you don't have a recommendation, Mr.
I mean, I also did another whole bond schedule that goes out like 25 years, so you never went to permanent financing, but ultimately, you probably want to do permanent financing anyhow in 15 years, because otherwise your pay downs would get to be pretty nasty. You'd have to pay off that potential 10 million in 10 years. $1 million a year to
Yeah,
pay
that's-
off.
yeah, that's crazy.
Which is kind of,
And
especially for long-term.
These are
assets.
long-term assets. These
Yeah,
are
and the
50-year,
people are gonna be able- it's
these
like
are
buying a
50-year,
house.
75-year life cycle costs. So,
Right.
short-term is not the way to go with these, because these are long-term investments. The fire truck is, 20-year investment, so even that's a 20-year investment, like, so.
I was just going to say, the statutory assigned bonding period for a building is going to be a lot longer than 10 years. It'll be at least 30 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I used an average, when I was putting band principal on here, I was calculating what the band principal would be on $10 million based upon an average life of 20 years.
Okay.
And I knew I was being conservative in that regard,
So it's a
too.
conservative, yeah.
But it sort of worked out, the way I figured it anyhow, in light of that information on page 7, where your principal was this number and principal and debt service was X, and it all was less than $1,453,000.
I think that's the goal. So Lou, on your schedule, page 3,
Yes.
where it says band principal, the next to last column,
Right.
you're paying off 1,750 of the
Right.
10, and then you bring in the 8,250,000, which is the balance of the 10 and this 1,750,
Right.
and everything else on top is gone by 2029.
Yes.
Right.
All right?
Yep.
So in 2030, we're going out to bond another, for 14 years, at the 8.25 million.
Well, you have them as bands right now, right?
No.
Not when you go to
That's
2030.
bond.
When you go to 2030, your
In year
bonds.
2029, you bond.
Oh, that's the
that
10 years, so you have to
8,250.
bond?
That's
Okay.
left of the 10
Okay,
million.
gotcha,
Right.
so that goes
That's
to
your
bonds.
10-year allowance for short
Okay, and you say 4%, which is 4%.
To guess, because.
Well, I actually used 4% because the last 15-year bond issue that you had was 4%.
Okay.
And I picked the number.
Yeah, you
If I
don't-
knew what the number was, I'd be,
You wouldn't be sitting in front of us.
So Lou, even though this is informational, there's nothing in here that you would say, don't do this necessarily, in the scenario you've laid out?
no.
Okay.
I mean, when everybody has a chance to look, you can't pay, you can't really pay off the $6 million that you have outstanding now without taking a bigger hit, I think. And everybody was kind of concerned that because when we first had this discussion, what were they talking about? Oh, the interest rates are going to continue to go up, it's going to be
Right.
terrible.
So, Mr. Beinfeld, on the hot seat now. When would be the most opportunistic time to authorize, if the council digests this tonight and comes back next meeting and says we want to proceed, or we want to have Lou change this a little bit, to make it a little more palatable, do you think we should go out soon?
I think,
When is the ban?
once you make the decision that that's what you're going to do, go out and
Pull the trigger.
affect it. Yes, I mean, that saves yourselves the ambiguities of what may happen in the time.
Correct, because the interest rate could go up for some crazy reason.
It's going to do something.
Yes.
So once you've made the choice that it's the good financial decision, prudent long-term thinking, and so on, we go. There's nothing inherently not good about going into the market in August or September or October. Sometimes the beginning of the year, maybe January is a little unusual, but there's nothing that, in my mind, that would, we try to time it not to be out there the day the Fed is having a meeting, but other than that, we just go out and get it done.
So in anticipation of, let's just say, I think we're a prudent bunch up here, and we're trying to get our financials in order. If we went out, let's just say, in September for the...
Yes.
Not September, Lou's shaking his head.
You have to sell these bonds. Well, you don't really have to. You don't have to sell these bonds.
Let's say August then. What do you want? When do you want it?
Where I was going with this is to make the decision and to tweak the numbers and to do it. I think when your note comes due August 2nd, I think,
Well,
which is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to affect this. By then, we can't push the rating agencies. We have to give them enough time. So I would recommend, if you think it's a good thing to go to a bond sale, that we flip over that note for anywhere from 30 days to 90 days, whatever you think is best, and then because we'll have to do something with that, because we may not have the bond money in by July 31st to pay off the note. I wouldn't take it out for a year. I would take it out for a short period of time. I understand that you may have to pay a little interest, but if you can, but I would, well, that's a question, but you'd need to give yourself some time to flip that note over, to put the bonds in place behind them. There's a legal reason why you, as the new tax law, will not allow us to issue the bonds more than 90 days before the notes are due. So I wouldn't, if you're saying I want to go forward and we want to sell permanent debt, you should not roll the note for a year, because your bonds will be out in September or October, and that's more than 90 days before a year, and we can't do that on a tax exempt basis anymore.
I have a question. How much time after they authorize a bond sale, how much time needs to take place before the actual sale, award, and close?
I'll redirect 1 second, if I can, Lou, back to you, and then I'll come back to it. How the town's audit comes out in August, or
20th of June, maybe?
So the audit would be ready. That's good, because we want to give that to the rating agencies comfortably.
Right.
2 months, maybe? But from the time you make the choice to go through.
That puts us into September.
I mean, uncomfortably, so I would just say take the note for, 60, 90 days. So if something goes wrong or the markets are in a problem, our hand isn't forced. But it probably have to get materials to the rating agencies. They usually want to take 3 weeks or so. Generally, it's summertime. You never know who might be there, who might not be there. So I wouldn't want to try to thread it too closely. But I'd say a couple months.
Okay.
A little longer?
Or a little shorter?
I was hoping for shorter.
6 weeks
well,
maybe,
we're
but
trending
everything
down.
would have to, everything
I was
has to
hoping
go.
for 6 weeks, and
Let's do
that way
this.
we'd be done through and finished before the notes came due. Otherwise, the only thing I would tell you to do, or suggest, I wouldn't tell you to do anything, would be to roll the notes until January, because we don't have any interest room in the current budget to
Well, I don't
pay
think
additional interest.
we don't
this year.
have to rush to do it. I mean, why don't we just do it when we're supposed to and get it done on a timely basis? Get the audit done, issue the financial
The audit's not
statements.
issued, just got to put together.
I know, but
all that
issue the
motivation.
financial statements, and then when it rolls around, we do it. We're not gonna miss much if it's a month or two.
I'll just push it one more to try to see if we could accommodate doing it before it'll be tight. I would think we'd have to get all the materials, including the offering statement, all the financials, all the maturity schedules. If we get that to the rating agencies after the holiday, I don't think we'll have it done in time. So we'd have to be prepared, I think, to get all the materials to the rating agencies by the end of this month, and then ask them for a rating. If our notes are due on August 2nd, we'd want to close, take bids 10 days, 2 weeks before that. You want your rating a week or so before that. I'm just trying to backtrack and see where we get. I think you got to give the rating agency comfortably 3 weeks, maybe 2 if we have somebody there that really wants to respond to us, but I can't force it. So it can be done, but I think that all the packages would need to get in and decisions made and final schedules by the end of this month. Maybe that's possible.
That was the reason why we kind of rushed this meeting into tonight's session, just in case we were going to try and jam it in here quickly, which, again, it's the summertime. The only modification I would have with respect to this is that if we go out for short-term notes, that the notes shouldn't mature until January.
If we're forced to do it. If we're forced to go for short-term.
Also,
Right.
I don't believe we have the money in the budget this year for the rating agency. We
Yeah,
did
but
discuss that.
That would be charged to the ordinances.
But to the actual bond issue itself, if you're going out for regular bonds, it could be charged that way?
I think it's all true. You
It could be,
attribute
okay.
that to the soft cost built into
Okay.
that. That's
Yeah.
what they're
But I'm saying,
designed for.
if you go out for permanent financing,
Yeah.
you can, okay.
But anyhow, so if it's not doable, okay, then you need, my only suggestion would be to push the notes until January.
Play the dates with me, can you, just so we can
Sure.
try to see what's going on? Because if we can do it, why not get it done? But I want you to see if we're going to, I just took out a calendar, August 1st, would be, we'd need the bonds to
Yeah,
close.
it's too close.
We need at least 10 days, 25, we could, I guess, sell on the 23rd of July. We want the rating a week before that, July 16th or so. We publish the official statement, maybe even in advance of that, but in 3 weeks in advance of that, we'd have to get to the rating agencies, which brings us to around June 25th. So it's all, but miss, so I don't.
Short notes. Yeah, given that scenario, especially since you need to engage a financial advisor to do your OS for you. You all want to take a look at this and decide how you want to...
What's an OS?
Sorry.
Official statement.
Official statement.
It's like an offering document. It's the offering document.
Municipal markets prospectus for the corporate world.
Yeah.
Let me ask one question about the interest. Is there any possibility of charging that into one of the ordinances? No. Okay.
Interest.
I thought they just came out with something that said they didn't want you to do that anymore.
Okay.
So regardless of the timing for a minute, since we do have several $100,000 of funded, unused money that probably will not be used, maybe 400, how do we get that out and pay this down? So instead of 5.7, we're at 5.3. I've been asking for this, but I don't want, this money is going to sit there again in some bank account and it's never going to be used, and it's never going to pay down the debt. So how do we get that out?
Well, so given that question, it is more likely than not that we should definitely contemplate rolling over the notes until early of 2020. and then we would have time to make that is additional evaluations. You could all look at how you like the schedule, because what would happen, given that, on the top of page 3, where we have no band interest in 2020, you would have 4 months of band interest. And, so that would be probably similar to what you're paying this year. A little bit less, because they charge you more for a short-term one, but it'll be less than what you paid for your interest this year, unless the market changes considerably.
Because once you bonded, I think you said before, once you bonded, and let's just say you bond 5.7 million, and we then say, oh, there's 400 we're never going to use. We're stuck with the bond, aren't we?
Yeah, you're stuck with the bond.
Right.
That's it.
You're stuck with the bond.
Right.
You can always reappropriate those monies.
Or we could pay it back.
There's no advance refund.
No, you can't
No.
take it. The investors are entitled to keep it for 10 years, or 8 years.
Not
whatever
like
you
a
call
mortgage.
it.
Yeah, and you probably wouldn't
No
even have a
prepayment.
callable bond because you have a mature.
Because we have a 10-year
Most
maturity.
people want a 10-year hold first before they're callable. I've seen 9s. I mean, it's like, doesn't make any difference when you have such a little amount of money.
As you were suggesting, the idea that you have an extra balance in there, you're never going to get everything exactly right, so that you can easily reappropriate it for another capital project in your next year's worth of, it's money available for capital, whether it's tied.
That I understand.
Yeah. So,
I mean, but again, it's been 3 years and I'm still staring at the same number. And I don't want to pay interest on, and then turn it into a long-term bond where I'm stuck with it, and then I can't do anything.
Right.
but for sure,
Right.
if
Right.
the projects are not, right, that's.
Yeah, but
What would
it
have to
wouldn't be,
happen-
but like you were saying, I use the old school board adage. All right, I'm going to pick on the school boards now, right? We passed a $25 million referendum bond, right? And it comes in at $19.9 million, some magically happens. Now we have $5 million to do a rec field, right? It's the magic of Bergen County school districts all over the county. You're laughing, Mr. Beinfeld, because you know I'm 100% right. Mr. Yakimic knows I'm 100% right. So it's not like the money is wasted there. We could build other projects. We could do other things with that money. So it's not,
You could do a lot of things.
Yeah.
because if the school districts figured this out, I'm sure municipalities have figured this out.
It's true. It's true. Any other capital purpose, whether or not you're on a long-term rate or not. Let me go one more time on a note, on a short note. So if, and I just tried numbers, and the numbers end up working very conveniently to doing it on the spot after I say that. So a $6 million note, let's say it's a 2% interest rate, which is more or less where you'll be, probably maybe a little under. So that would be $120,000 in a year if I'm still on track. And if you did that per month, it's an easy 120 divided by 12, which would be $10,000 a month. So if we took a month note or a 45-day note and it cost us an interest $15,000 or 20, that would still be. I just want to be sure that the push is correct to go to go to the new year. If that.
I'm not happy with the new year.
Well, I just wanted to. I just wanted to see. But if there
Because we've been talking about, we talked about this last year when you gentlemen attended last year, right? So these bands have gone another year that we've wasted all this interest payments.
Yes.
And we said we were going to permanently finance it last year, and then we said, no, we're going to wait till this year because we didn't have the money in the budget. Then we did what you said last year, and now we're talking about moving it again to 2020.
And who knows what the
And so-
interest rates
so
are
if-
going
if-
to be.
And the interest rates is very volatile, right?
Yeah.
If President Trump
Always
blows his
volatile.
nose wrong or something, somebody's going to have, something to do, right? And the interest rates could go up. But so if we're talking about $10,000 or $20,000, Mr. Bruno just said we have $400,000 sitting somewhere. Can we use that money, Mr. May? Mr. Beinfeld shaking his head, I think yes. So I hope his answer is right.
We've been told there were ordinances passed with purposes for this money, and say there's $20,000 in a 14-8 ordinance. It was my understanding,
We could use
unless
it.
I heard wrong, number one, originally, that there was a purpose for that ordinance, like we were making dog shelters.
Right.
And that was the purpose that money should be used for, and not another one. And now tonight I'm hearing we should use it. What's the truth?
When you pass an ordinance, it says what you're going to spend it on, and that's really the plan. Sometimes the plan changes.
So even if,
And there, no,
Yeah,
just,
go on.
and so there
How
are,
legally do we spend was it $400,000 or
guessing.
more in that list
More than that, but I'm
of
just
list
saying
of
we can use
bands?
400.
Well,
we
whatever
pay
it
2
is.
months of it, let's say 2 months of interest, right? And we go back to my magical September 1st date, which I like, and we make it work.
Let's do it.
And we become prudent up here on this dais, and we get these bans off our backs forever, because that's all we're doing is if we push them into 2020, we're just pushing them off another year, another $274,000 of interest gone, with minimal principal paid. And I think we made a decision last year, we were going to do this bond this year to get rid of these bans. I think that was all of us on this day sat here and said that's what we wanted to do. And I'm not comfortable with pushing it to 2020.
well, let me,
If we can get it done this year.
No, wait a second. See what you just did? You gave us the decision. You gave us the decision that said, okay, I don't want to go into next year. That's good. That takes care of one.
Well, that's my decision. I have to have the rest of the council up
but
here.
I needed it
Gentlemen,
from somewhere.
I want to get rid of it as soon as possible, okay?
Mr.
So you can do
You
it
want
tomorrow, do it
to clean
tomorrow.
it up and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to sit with
Yes.
$400,000.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
So,
So
okay.
it should be cleaned
So
up.
given that,
and
and we don't want to go to 19,
We don't go 20, because we're in 19.
yeah, I'm sorry, we don't want to go to 20 with the note, so we'll pick a...
Let's do it by September 1st, like he says.
They got to see if they can do it. That's out of our hands.
Well, the date is the second,
Okay.
You know,
it matures in the second, right?
It's real simple, we'll do an emergency.
Whatever,
We'll do an emergency appropriation for the interest. This $725,000 that we have here, if the interest is $20,000, that'll be $705.
705. That's all.
Well, actually, we have to go,
Backwards.
if you take a look at there's one thing, all of these principal payments are all in like $25,000 increments. So we like to keep.
Okay.
So we knock off 25,000 and shove 25,000 into another
So
line.
you're going to make Mr. Bruno's number 375 instead of 400,000, and we call it a day.
Yeah, and then we'll look, I can't make the decisions on those projects. That is, management has to make a decision on those projects that there's bonds, that there's,
Yeah, but I
Well,
think
if we figure out where this magical 375 is, right? We know it's there somewhere, right? And we need $1.3 million for DMF. And let's just say we know we need $350,000 to do remediation of the DMF yard, which we haven't even talked about yet, right? So that $400,000 pays that remediation, and we're whole. So we use the sins of the past to pay for the sins of the past, and it makes us whole.
when will you have the financials? Because it's on your C6 schedule. That's what I need to look at. That's all. It's right there.
C3,
C3, whatever it is.
Bob and Judy already have.
Okay, so can we have that? Can we see what's...
It's a draft, I can send you a copy of it.
Okay, so it's a draft, it'll be a draft number, but it'll tell us what's funded and unused.
Right.
And we can pick a year and go, I did this, I don't have my notes from last time, we just pick a year, go up to 2005 and say, we don't want it. We
That's
haven't
what we
spent
talked
it since then. We'll
Because,
keep 17 and 18 and maybe 16, everything else goes.
because when we spoke, we were saying that's money that's been borrowed that we could cancel out and that would be available. And we could
Yes.
start with the older years.
Yes,
The first one was 99.
Yeah, first one's not.
right. So all I need is the schedule, we need the schedule, and we just say everything from this year
Up
back,
is-
up,
disappears.
whatever.
I think we'd keep 17, I think, up or maybe 16.
What, Judy?
I think we keep maybe 17 and part of 16
Yeah,
open, right.
17 and 18 you keep, obviously,
whatever,
and look at
yes.
16. I don't think there's anything big, there might be something in 16 big, but anything prior to that, it's 2019 now, anything 15 and prior,
We can.
we don't even, we look at it every year in the financials and do nothing, so get rid of it.
No.
That's
I
money
agree.
we can put here, do something, but, you
Can
know.
you give the C exhibits to
Sure.
the council?
Go through that again, I'm just looking at the
account that the C exhibits are?
Oh, that's capital. That's capital. The C3, there's C3 is analysis of cash of the X amount of dollars that's in the capital fund. It analyzes it all down to how much is this ordinance, how much is that ordinance, and it's going to tell you where there's balances and where there's
Borrowed and not
deficits.
spent.
I'm sorry, I was missing because I was trying to check dates. Is the thought, I just want to see if that affects the bond, does that necessarily affect the bond sizing? Or this, in other words, if you find monies in the capital that are there,
Yeah.
and was the thought that
Yep.
It could.
we could use that's extra,
Yep.
but we don't need those for the projects anymore, if that,
Yep.
you could pay, is that
Or we
part of
could
the
leave,
thought?
or we could
Because-
leave that money there, Bob, to pay the remediation.
But, well, 6 and 1/2 doesn't know another. I just want this money out.
Right.
And either it goes into a bank account, or it goes against the debt, however you want to handle it. But the problem is, I don't know how long it takes to just do a mass cancellation and get our money back.
The resolution.
Just the resolution, that's it.
So we got to work
We
on
could
that.
analyze it, put it on next.
Well, it's our intention to have this ready for,
Pay that to bonds?
Okay, so we would do a resolution that says we're going to cancel
Cancel
or
borrowing
take back, however it's written. Is that a Ken thing to write, Ken? No? So, okay,
I think Judy does that.
Okay.
all right, so we do a resolution that says, we list it, the way we do
You're
this.
canceling the following ordinances
Yeah.
and getting that money back.
Right, and here's the amounts, and that's it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so everything from 17 prior.
16
Prior.
you have to
16
look at. I
prior.
don't know.
Prior.
You need the schedule, Steve, to see what it is.
Well, if you look at the page 2, you can see it.
It's
No.
page...
No, that's
Oh,
not.
you're talking about the C3 schedule?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at least.
All right, those are the marching orders.
Well, yeah, thank you. Let me make sure, because I was just going to say, I see in my future, and I just want to make sure I'm seeing the right the future here. So when is your next,
17.
June 17th? So at a minimum, on June 17th, it looks like I'll have a rollover of the note. And I won't put a specific date in there, but it'll be, I would anticipate, from August 1 to after Labor Day a little bit, because Labor Day.
Yeah, that's fine.
So just to, right, so
Or go to October 1st to be safe.
but listening to what you were just discussing, the other thing that might be in my future and might not be for June 17th is preparing the bond sale resolution, which you'd have to lock in all your amounts and all your maturities. So if we go for a little bit longer, I can take another meeting to let that sift out as the right way to do, as what you're going to do with that, with that C3 money.
Okay.
And then I could come to you in your July meeting with the bond sale resolution.
We don't want to
Okay.
lock in money that we're not using anymore.
So
It's just silly.
I think,
Yeah.
let that determine what that is, how to
Okay.
use that in the bond,
Okay.
and then I'll have the bond document for you at your July meeting.
What
Okay.
day is that July meeting, Sue?
Second, first?
17.
No, it's June,
For June 17th.
No, July.
July is going to be, I think, 15th.
Well, we have one in July?
July 15th is our meeting, yes.
We just have one in July?
Yes.
That's okay.
July
That
15th.
gives you
Plenty. If
2.5 months
If
to
it
get
goes
it
to
done.
October, we'll be,
Yep,
we
October
won't
1st.
be sweating it.
No,
If
so,
something-
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And by October, this stuff will be all cleaned up and you'll be up to the new stuff.
Yeah, we'll be going out to bid for the firehouse. Right?
Yeah, if it's gonna take 2 months to get the specs, you're gonna take 60 days to get
The bids in.
to get bids in and evaluate them, and so you're gonna. That's the reason why I said the notes weren't going out. That's the reason why I said the notes weren't going out until 2020.
You're probably right, in terms of when we borrow.
Right?
Yeah, in terms of when we borrow, yeah.
Besides, are those ordinances all adopted already? I mean,
No, we haven't adopted
No, we haven't
anything to
adopted.
fund it.
I may be going back on the schedule. I suggested, since the determination of these monies may also affect the note rollover size, right?
Yes.
Because you may just use it at the time of the notes come due and pay the notes. I think I should do both things on July 15th, and then it's part of a unified package.
Perfect.
Here are the
Yes.
notes, here are the bonds.
Get rid
That
of it.
would be the way to go.
So you meaning canceling and then introducing? No.
Doing a note rollover resolution in July for the amount to be determined
Yeah.
for up to October 1, and at the same time, put the bond sale document in place to take out those notes.
Correct.
Okay.
So, just so we understand, this $10 million number, I think you just asked if we have ordinances for this. We haven't.
We were discussing that.
We don't have
We were discussing
ordinances.
that
We
today.
haven't
don't have
approved
We don't have a
ordinances.
19 bond ordinance, and that's
I mean,
what-
we don't, this is a number that we have. So, we have to do the ordinances and approve the ordinances and then go get the money, obviously. So right now, we're looking at 10 million, which is fine, but there's nothing out there
There's no 19.
That's one of the reasons why you don't go out for your $10 million. You don't add the other $2 or
Yeah.
$3 million
No, I
on
understand
top
that.
of this.
I mean, we put the
Finance.
10% in the budget, but the 5%,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Yeah.
Well, we discussed doing the 19 bond ordinance also, right?
Doing the what, Judy? The 19 what?
The 2019 bond ordinance itself.
Mr. Beinfeld and I have discussed that.
Right.
So our intention was the next meeting, but that could change.
Okay.
Maybe that's June 17th. yeah.
Might be.
Okay, so in July, so we'll see the C6 schedule, and in July, you'll have some sort of something.
I'll have a bunch of stuff, yes.
Our resolution to cancel everything will be in July also, the 400, and then you'll have your number, and then you'll have what's going out, less a number that we give you.
Exactly,
Okay, in July.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Another enlightening meeting. We're going to take a 5-minute break so Ricky can find out where Mr. Yukimic is going to put his board, and then we'll come back because he wants to get it on video. Good evening, Mr. Yukimic. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. DeSena. John Yukimic, Boswell Engineering, here this evening. I'm here to talk about FEMA flood mapping and some requirements that the borough has to enact in a timely fashion. In February of 2019, the township was notified by the federal government that new firm maps dated 2014 will become effective on August 28, 2019. And then on April 23rd, 2019, the town was notified by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection on the process in order for adopting the new maps associated with FEMA and the new ordinance that you have currently on your books as Chapter 244 and the processes involved with it. So the actual rules did not really come out until April 23rd, 2019.
Have we
And-
missed the May deadline, Mr. Yukimic?
The May deadline of May 17th was a soft deadline.
Okay.
And it...
So we're not in trouble for missing
We're
it?
not in trouble for that. The DEP just wants to make sure that all of the towns in New Jersey have revised their local ordinances correctly, and that gives them enough time from May until, say, July or August to make sure that they're enacted properly. So we should get our draft ordinance in as quickly as possible to the DEP.
So if we're amenable to all your changes that you've highlighted for us at the end of your presentation, you'll be able to submit it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think I'm here this evening to talk a little bit about the differences of them. What I brought with me this evening is a composite map, which is over to my left. The Washington Township is composed of about 4 or 5 different panels, FEMA panels. So what we did at Boswell to make it very easy, we took all of the panels and we put them together on one map, combined them all, and we compared the 2005 flood zones with the 2014 flood zones. And the bottom line is that nothing has changed in the township. basically the 100-year flood zone areas of the 2005 map and the 2014 map, which becomes effective later this year, are essentially the same. The 500-year inundation areas are also the same. A lot of other municipalities have had major changes, but that is not the case for Washington Township. When DEP sent out their model ordinance, they color-coded it in 3 different colors. Green are required changes to your current Chapter 244. Yellow are changes that are particular to the township as far as who enacts and enforces this section of the code. And the blue items are optional. And the blue items are optional stricter standards that the township can adopt. Our experience at Boswell for Bergen County towns is that no Bergen County towns have adopted the stricter blue standards. If you want, I could very quickly go over what those stricter blue standards are, but our recommendations are not to enact them in Washington Township. They are basically meant for municipalities that have large repetitive areas that are subject to flooding. Some of the more stricter requirements are to have freeboards, not construction and livable areas 1 foot above the 100-year flood, but to have them to 2 or 3 feet.
Correct.
And that would have a profound effect on construction within the floodplain, as you could imagine. Another strict area is about repetitive losses and cumulative, substantial repetitive losses. The construction official would have to keep a record of repetitive losses over a 10-year period, and if those losses equal to anywhere between 40 or 50%, at that point, the construction official can say that that dwelling now has to comply with these regulations. We're not recommending any of those things. We don't think that they're particularly a problem within the township. That's essentially it, Mr. DeSena. Unless
Thank you,
there's any
Mr.
other
Yakim. No, I reviewed it. I think the amendments you're making to it are based on the new statutory requirements. I don't, unless anybody else on the dais has any objection to it, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have Mr. Yakimic proceed and protect the homeowners of Washington Township that do pay for flood hazard insurance, the opportunity to continue to have that offered to them, because we missed this deadline, that will affect their...
Absolutely. If you do get a flood after August 28th and this ordinance is not in effect, those people would not be subject to, would not be able to collect on flood insurance.
Correct.
What are the colors on this, Mike? I'm sorry.
What's that?
What's the red and the blue? The red is the flood.
I could explain that.
One's a 500 and 100-year floodplain.
Yeah, so the blue is the 100-year floodplain. The solid blue is the 2005. The striped blue lines are the what's called the preliminary on this map, but that preliminary becomes final on August 28th.
So gentlemen, are we okay with having Mr. Yakimic proceed with the draft ordinance to the DEP and having this ready for the next meeting for our adoption?
Looks fine to me.
Mr. Pollard, you'll work with Mr. Yakimic?
John, I'll give you the statutory reference for the section that you recall to give the court. That one section, I'll give that to you. And you'll just accept it with the changes, yes?
There was, I need some guidance on the yellow sections.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll go
Which
over that. No problem.
have to do with enforcement and things of that sort.
Who is our floodplain manager in town? Is it Mr. Shiala?
Well, the way it was written, your chapter 244 is written, is that the chief construction official.
So it's Mr. Shiala, right?
Is the enforcer of this section of the code.
That's who I thought it was. What's that?
You should leave it that way.
Yeah.
Typically, that's what it is in most municipalities.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and then, at the end of the ordinance, it talks about appeal boards.
It was an appeal from the planning board.
Planning
It goes to
board.
Superior Court, there's a rule, which I'll give you, I'll give it to you. I'll give you the stuff to put in.
Fantastic.
All I want to do is, so John's gonna accept the green,
Yep.
go over the yellow, I'll give him the thing to
Information,
insert. Introduce at the next meeting.
Yes, we want to introduce.
And then at the second meeting.
Or do we have to wait for the draft to be accepted before we introduce, John?
No, I don't think it's accepted, they just want to see it.
I think they want to see it, and I think that's a good point. We could send it to them to make absolutely sure.
Yeah, they said that they've been calling me, asking me, and I keep telling them it's on the agenda. They said if we could send the draft down, they'd be more than happy to review it, make sure everything's in
Okay.
place, and then
The next meeting we'll
say,
adopt
yes,
it.
we can do it.
So once Mr. Polo gets to me, we talk and get the correct language in here for the yellow. Then we will send it, and then I would recommend we have it on the agenda for the next meeting for introduction.
Right.
We can make minor changes, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes, minor changes, yeah.
if something
Send
comes
it to-
back
yeah,
during
I
that
agree.
period before final
I
adoption.
agree, and I think it would be good to have it there. I also want to have an emergency resolution.
So we could pass it right that day.
Immediately, so
Yep.
nobody says.
Yeah, we missed the deadline and they missed their flood hazard insurance, yeah.
Because-
This is big.
This is big, yeah.
It's because there's an estoppel period after,
Well, we're going to take care of the stop permit by making it,
very good. Okay.
at the meeting.
I
And
think
no-
that's a
no
good
blue,
idea.
is that correct?
What's that?
No
No blue, no.
No blue.
No, I don't think we have enough repetitive claims or anything. We don't have anything like
No
that.
blue.
No other Bergen County towns we know of are enacting
No.
blue. Anything else, gentlemen?
I guess we brushed on the, while you're here, intersection DMF, right, Mr. Tovo? We talked about before. Mr. Yukimi could just give us a little update on where we
We
are.
covered all of it.
Yeah, well, it's been
I'm
nice to
sorry?
hear from him.
Oh, okay. Survey's complete, mapping is complete.
Have we started right-of-way acquisition at all?
We have not, that is, there is minor right-of-way acquisition
Okay.
involved. We are identifying the proper Ts. There may be one or two where we need some easements. I was active in the month of March here before the Board of Adjustment to make sure that the bridal shop at the...
Has that been approved, Mr. Mayor? The dentist's office?
I believe it has, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I was here for the hearings.
And I
to make
remember you
sure-
prepared a letter and all, yes.
To make sure that the proper easements were in place to facilitate the...
So as part of their approval, they gave us those easements, so we don't need to acquire them.
That's correct.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that worked out, the timing worked out very well with that. I believe the administrator got a draft shared services agreement
Yes.
from the county yesterday, which is a very good sign that this is...
Moving forward.
Moving forward on the radar screen. The next step would be, as you said, identify the easements so we could start any sort of negotiation with the one or two property owners.
Okay.
And to get the utility companies on board for the moving of the utility poles so that cost gets programmed into their program. So hopefully by the end of the year, we should start seeing some of those poles get moved.
Okay.
That's about it. We were looking to make a presentation up to the mayor and the administrator, perhaps at the July meeting on progress or the August meeting.
Okay.
And that's where we are right now.
Excellent.
Thank you.
About time.
Things are moving.
So are we just as a town responsible for buying the land still?
Yes, you are. When you say buying the land, that is negotiating for the easement and
Oh,
whatever
okay.
that negotiation shall be.
Okay, so utility poles is not us moving
Not,
poles?
not
Okay.
your cost.
Because this has been going back and forth for years.
Well, I've been saying it
and
for years that
everybody's
it's
been
not our
throwing it up.
cost,
Yeah.
and nobody, you know, a certain person wouldn't listen to me, but I think
Okay.
the new mayor listens, so thank you.
Thank you.
Get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you, John.
Thank you, John.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, so moved.
Oh, wow, yeah, second.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Now let's stay more. Yeah, I went out.
Councilman Fleming?
Yes.
Council President Fisell?
Yes.
Good night, all. Have a good night.
Thank you.